everyone, what's up? It's Aurelius here, and today we're going to be taking a look at Russell Brand, who, ostensibly was, I think, I've seen him before say stuff about being, like, left-wing or whatever, and I don't know if he still, like, says he is or whatever, but anyway, I saw that he made a video about this whole, the Let's Go Brandon thing and blah, 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 and yeah, I wanted to see it and respond to it because I've seen a lot of people say a lot of very, very crank, dumb stuff about this whole, like things related to this and this whole situation with the airline guy and whatever. So let's get into it. Let's see.
It's something that you might not be allowed to say soon, which is why I was only saying it then to point out how you might not be allowed to say it soon. Let's Go Brandon. Funny phenomenon or dangerous terror threat comparable to ISIS? Is that the question?
Okay.
Hello there, you, my 4 million glorious, shimmering treasures. You know, like a couple of weeks ago, we did a video about Let's Go Brandon. Loads of people did a video about Let's Go Brandon.
Jesus.
It was pretty funny the way it came about
Wow.
because during that interview, that woman chatting to that dude and like, are you happy to have people shouting, Let's Go Brandon? But you could blatantly hear them saying, fuck Joe Biden, fuck Joe. It's funny. That's a funny thing to me as a comedian. You should know where I stand politically. I don't think that the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump is even worth arguing about.
Okay, well, I mean, that's a crank position, but that's not what this video is about.
And I know that on both sides of the argument, people will go, no, I love Donald Trump. No, I hate Donald Trump. Me, two guys in a system basically doing stuff that the system says.
The system, man, yeah.
The thing I want to talk about, though, is that this Let's Go Brandon meme, which I think of as pretty funny, is beginning to be censored and talked about as a kind of terrorism. What does this rhetoric do to a culture? Is it fair? And also, is there an example of real hypocrisy and double standards? Because I feel like fuck Donald Trump was a thing that was actively encouraged on mainstream media. Let's have a look at this.
So here's what we're going to look out for. Okay, so he specifically said here that it's being compared to a kind of terrorism. I'm just interested to see what he's going to be talking about here. I have not watched this before. I don't know what he's going to... Let's see.
Situation. Southwest Airlines has announced an internal investigation after a pilot was reported to have signed off a message to passengers by saying, Let's Go Brandon. Now, firstly, Let's Go Brandon is a code for fuck Joe Brandon, but it is a code, right? So it's sort of cheeky and funny. It's not hateful and dangerous, I don't think. And I've got no dog in this fight. On a Southwest flight from Houston to Texas Albuquerque.
I mean, okay, well, but that doesn't really matter if it's hateful or dangerous. It's just, like, really weird. Like, why would you're on an airline flight and the airline pilot just randomly says, like, a political statement? That's just kind of weird. And honestly, I think I'd want them to get some kind of, like, repudiation from the employer inside of that context, no matter what they were saying. If it was during all the BLM stuff and they went like, oh yeah, Black Lives Matter or whatever, but like on the airline thing, it's like, this is not, you're an airline guy. You're talking on the airline system about whatever, like, you're not supposed to say political statements or messages. This is bizarre and weird and dumb. And no matter what message it would be like, yeah, this is weird and cringeworthy. Just, no.
Albuquerque, New Mexico on Friday morning, an Associated Press reporter heard the pilot end a message over the public address system with the phrase. She tried to ask the pilot about his comment, but was almost removed from the plane. That doesn't sound that bad. Almost removed from... I was almost removed from a plane once. Oh, you poor bastard. I've been removed from a plane before, and even that weren't that bad. I just went, come on, off you get now. You're drunk and your feet are up. It was a long time ago. As the discussion of the incident proliferated online, Southwest said in a statement, Southwest does not condone employees sharing their personal political opinions while on the job serving our customers, and one employee's individual perspective should not be interpreted as the viewpoint of Southwest and its collective 54,000 employees.
Yeah.
That's pretty obvious, isn't it? What? Southwest Airlines itself says Let's Go Brandon, and every one of the 54... Only an idiot would assume that, or someone that's willfully and deliberately trying to create a situation of ongoing opposition, suspicion and condemnation of a massive portion of the population, preventing there ever being meaningful progress, togetherness and a new emergent political systems, because however they may frame their opinions, really they're deeply invested in a kind of authoritarian conservatism, albeit an apparently liberal one.
What? What are you referring to the airline, like, repudiating the statement? Like, this is a really standard thing. like, I mean, obviously it's that, like, yeah, it'd be kind of dumb to interpret one employee's statement as being in, like, the position of the company and all of its employees. But maybe it wouldn't be so dumb if the company just didn't care at all, or didn't, like, say, like, oh, no, we don't support any political or whatever, we're just an airline company. Like this is incredibly standard, banal stuff, right? It just happens to have been sucked into this dumb culture war vortex that then now Brand's taking some crank. I hate everyone, but I'm only going to talk about some weird right-wing angle of stuff, position on. But let's see.
Southwest Airlines is launching an internal investigation after a pilot reportedly signed off a message to passengers by saying, "Let's go, Brandon."
Let's see what they say over at CNN, where I go to get my news.
Now, that is a phrase that has become conservative code for swearing at President Biden.
Swearing at President Biden, like any president, even the nicest and most beloved presidents in history, have to make decisions that end the lives of children a couple of times a month, don't they? Like, we're going to have to drone that place, we're going to have to bomb that place. Swearing at them, come on, man.
It actually means F.
I mean, sure, they're not even saying it's that crazy of a thing. I mean, the Let's Go Brandon thing is more lame than anything. It's really dumb. Okay, so what, but their point, that's just what it is. That's what they're describing it as. There's not even, like, some, like, weird indignation in their voice like he seems to be implying. It's so whatever.
Joe Biden.
What?
Pete Muntean with us here on this. What's going on?
Already, before he said a word, this geezer, he looks like he's just been really shocked. Like someone's like, why don't we do a shit in your cornflakes? Well, I just think the shit in someone's cornflakes is the worst thing you can do.
Now, this is not the only incident like this, just ones that passengers have heard. The United Airlines Pilot Union sent a memo to all of its pilots just last week saying to not use the emergency frequency that pilots use, typically not for screwing around, to say this "Let's go Brandon" phrase.
Yeah, I mean, that's true.
They're using it to say it to each other. Hey, let's get on the old emergency thing. Let's go Brandon.
They say they sent out this.
Yeah, I just don't understand. It's just this weird deranged. Like, it's really stupid and bizarre to do that. Like, I wouldn't want them doing that. This is weird. But there seems to be this, like, oh, it's so crazy that they're like, what did they even do to the guy? They just said a statement condemning it. What, did they, like, fire him or like
memo
okay.
Because of this, and it says that frequency is not to be used as a political pulpit. I'm a pilot. I fly a little airplane. I monitor this frequency all the time.
I monitor it. I'm a pilot. I'm pretty serious. Look at my haircut. My haircut's serious. My tie is serious.
You're supposed to listen to it.
Okay.
I've heard FJB. I've heard "Let's go Brandon." This is a real problem.
It's not a real problem, like it's interrupting flights. Oh no! There's a mountain! Let's go Brandon!
And it's happening.
I mean, yeah, no, it's not on that level of a problem, but it's more just really weird and dumb. And, like, no one would want something like this in any other context, but, like, it's just weird culture. Oh, well, I guess maybe people on the left, if someone said BLM on the flight thing and then they were, like, repudiated, maybe a lot of them would, like, be like, oh, God, blah, 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 blah. I guess I could see that. But that would be dumb, too. That would also be stupid. Well, you don't want them, like, using those things for, like, a political message. Like, it's just really weird and, like, yeah. He talks about the unity stuff, but then, like, isn't that, like, directly just, like, attacking, like, the idea of unity or whatever? If you're just inside of some random context like that, you're throwing in a political message of any kind. It's really odd.
A place where pilots can only hear, but also now in a place where the passengers can hear too.
I mean, it was bad enough when it was just pilots hearing someone says 3 words, but now it's whole adult.
And you've heard...
I don't think it's about the phrase itself. I think it's just more about it being a political, like, message, like...
that on that line from commercial pilots?
It's anonymous, so you can't exactly tell.
I can't tell, but I know some of these guys must have jobs, and they shouldn't have jobs. If you're going to say, "Let's go, Brandon," on a private frequency, you should be strung up by a chain and dangled in the sea as fish bait.
The frequency is one.
I mean, American conservatives are particularly disgusting, but whatever. But if you're making... He didn't say any of that. Nothing was said there. He's just saying that, like, oh, you hear it sometimes. Like, oh, God.
121.5.
Give away the frequency, the people will be all over it.
And so you're supposed to listen to it all the time. It's for Mayday calls. It's for serious stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've heard it.
You little square, man. Right. Excuse me, buddy boy. This is for emergency signals only.
So
You've heard it all.
I mean, okay. I mean, I think that the people saying "let's go Brandon" are the lame ones, but
Right,
whatever.
Pete, we'll see what happens here.
Yeah.
Pete Muntean, thank you so much.
What's really funny as well is that CNN do a whole piece how this phenomena of people using codes to say fuck Joe Biden without ever once saying, do you think people are not satisfied with Joe Biden? No, it can't be that. These are just silly asses fooling around on the emergency frequency board. The main
Okay, I mean, there are always people who are gonna dislike the president. Like, I mean, so this is kind of meaningless. It's like, but I mean, this is again like crank stuff. It's like it's a sign of a populist movement against Joe Biden. Yeah, I mean, Biden's approvals are pretty in the shit right now. But like, it's like, okay, that's not what the segment's about. Like,
thing is, though, with all this puritanical guarding of the public space and making sure that there's no political division, when Donald
but. Okay.
Trump was president, there was absolutely no condemnation or attempts at creating discontent then. So at least there's no double standards.
Robert De Niro.
I'm going to say one thing. Fuck Trump.
Is Robert De Niro my pilot here? Is Robert De Niro doing a transporting me in a vehicle in like a entirely like a context devoid of whatever? Like, this is a completely different context. This is an entertainment event that like you could just stop watching if you don't like the political message or whatever. If you're on that flight, and I'm not saying it's like the end of the world, but it's just kind of weird to like have like a political message like prompted at you by like a like the person flying the plane. It's weird. It's odd. Like yeah. And it's not really, it's unprofessional, it's whatever, it's all this, it's just bizarre, it's really weird, but this is a completely different context. Like, it's like, I mean, now if you could get me footage of him being a pilot, a liberal pilot, saying yeah fuck Donald Trump or whatever, I'll condemn that too. That's also stupid. There's no reason why, like, yeah, it's the entirely different space, entirely different context. Not at all the same thing, and this is not an actual retort to that, but whatever.
But I like Robert De Niro. He's one of my favourite actors. I think he's well cool. And I don't care if, as I keep telling you, I don't care about Joe Biden. I don't care about Donald Trump. I don't care about that. Anyone that crops up in those systems, I'm over caring. But if you think that's all right, then what's wrong with a Let's Go Brandon? At least it began organically out of a funny thing at a NASCAR race and isn't actually got swearing in it. And this thing was covered enthusiastically. Oh, that's good. Oh, Robert De Niro. Robert De Niro said fuck Donald Trump. He's really sticking it to a man. Like, either it's wrong or it ain't. No timeless values, no honour, no principles. That would be...
What? But it's a different context. Okay. You find an example where it's the same context and they're saying different things. I'll condemn that, okay? But this is a different context. It's an entertainment event. Like, if that same pilot were, I don't know, like in their part-time, in between their flights, they give comedy shows or whatever. And at one of these comedy shows, they said, let's go Brandon in the thing. I wouldn't care. I wouldn't care at all. It's when you bring that and you bring it into a professional context in which expressing some kind of political message or whatever is just kind of a weird and bizarre thing to do. Like,
be the reason that I would criticise anyone in a position of power that values their own self-advancement and the sustenance of the system above all else. These are things that anyone's capable of. I'm capable of. I'm full of hypocrisies and flaws. I'm a human being. But this exclusion, this extraction of honour and valour in the political space is why we're all suffering. Nothing means anything. Nothing's got any value. Nothing's real anymore. It's not really important that people are saying, let's go Brandon. It's not.
Because it's not really important on either end. It's not really important, then why are you covering it in this way? Like,
not a big deal. It's not a big deal that Robert De Niro does that. He's
it's also not a big deal that the pilot guy got investigated for what is a fairly mundane and like regular thing. Like, if you go on to the plane system, like, sorry, if you were a pilot and you go on and you say like, oh yeah, by the way, I oppose the fluoridation of water, and just like, and then just hang up the thing, it would be like, Or if you're like, oh, by the way, I support the elimination of the income tax system and the replacement of it with a flat tax or whatever, and you just hang up. That would be really weird, you know? I'm just naming like random, well, policy positions I don't like or whatever, but you get what I mean? Like, it would just be really odd. Or even like the inverse, if it's like, I want to abolish the Electoral College, which is a position I support or whatever, and then you just like hung up, it would be like, okay, like this is really weird and unprofessional, and what I'm just trying to get on a flight, like, so like it's a normal thing, but yeah, God.
Sort of a left-wing liberal actor. He was saying, fuck Donald Trump. He doesn't like Donald Trump. Cool. Loads of people don't like Donald Trump. Well, loads of people don't like Joe Biden either. The real problem is that neither of those political perspectives or the surrounding political administration did enough to help ordinary people, and people deserve it. People deserve a better, fairer system. People deserve more than just little pipsqueak protest slogans to chant. They deserve real access to the mechanics of power.
Okay.
Let's go, Brandon. Let's go, Brandon. Right?
I mean, if you had a conservative entertainment audience, I'm sure, and you said, let's go, Brandon, you'd get the same reaction. Like...
Right, so is it wrong or is it right? Is it bad or is it good? Like, because it's either we don't do it or we do.
Or we do, depending on the context.
It's no longer down with Trump, it's fuck Trump.
So what's it about then? What's it about? Because it's weird, isn't it? Because one of the things that people have tried to douse, package, dispute, and what do I want to say, kind of nullify, is the idea that Trump somehow, even though, as I keep reiterating, it's not a political figure that I identify with or support, reached blue-collar people, reached ordinary people. And when I watched that...
I mean, Trump did not win poor voters, and I don't like. I mean, if you divide it by 2020 vote by income, oh wow, hey, he's really for the working guy. Oh yeah, man. For sure. Oh my God. Look at that. Wow. Yeah, Donald Trump, man of the people. Man, yeah, look at that. Huh. You know, just down 15 points in the under $50,000 US vote. Like, yeah, man, he really reached out to the working class. I mean, you can talk about some specific voters in like, you know, like the Rust Belt or whatever, which is the thing that people always bring up, but like, you know, he did not... It was not this populist uprising of the poors or whatever, as people like to frame it sometimes. Like, I mean, 2016 is a little more complicated, I guess, but even then, like, Clinton overwhelmingly wins in these exit polls, the under 30,000 and the 30,000 to 50K range. Trump wins the middle class here, unlike in 2016, and Trump also wins more rich people. So I guess Biden appealed more to the middle class in 2020, but I mean, this is getting into like rich, definitely once you get past 100K. But yeah, but I mean that claim is just ridiculous. This is a ridiculous thing to say. Like,
I can see why.
That's not a unique thing. Not a unique, ridiculous thing. I mean, tons of people say this about Trump all the time. It's not a unique thing to brand, but still worth pointing out. It's not true.
Why you would think, well, these people lined up in red velvet chairs, some of whom are great artists, some of whom are from ordinary backgrounds. Of course, I acknowledge that. It's not a condemnation of those individuals, certainly not Robert De Niro, who I very much admire. But watching this from the perspective of someone that doesn't feel part of that cosy little system might put your back up. Matt Taibbi, writing in Substack, says, the phrase "Let's go Brandon" has become a war cry for people all over the country, being at once a burn on Biden, the anxious airbrushing press, and the corporate conglomerates who are taking preemptive action to try and prevent such outbursts from ever darkening Americans' door again. NASCAR and NBC have since taken steps to limit ambient crowd noise during interviews, as the AP put it. I like public spiritedness. I like the public having a voice. I'm a fan of football in my country. When you watch football on the television, you hear people shouting shit because it's a public forum.
Sure, that's fine. I mean, yeah, whatever. That's okay. I don't really have a problem with the thing itself, other than the fact that it's cringe and I disagree with it or whatever. But it's just in the context of a pilot saying it, like, in that context, is bad. It's stupid and weird.
It's a public space. It's one of the few spaces where people have access to raw.
I mean, also the other thing too of Matt Taibbi being like, "Oh, it's about the anxiety around oh, blah blah blah," and it's like, what anxiety? What anxiety? People like freaking out at him because of like gas prices, which is something he doesn't have control over. You know, the supply chain memes or that like CNN inflation story where it's like, "Oh, my family of 12, we drink 30 liters of milk a week. Oh my God! Oh man! And it costs more now because of the inflation, which is totally Joe Biden's fault. It's totally out of control. Oh my God!" It's just BS. It's all BS. Like, most of these criticisms of him are just garbage. Like, you know, like, yeah. But people, but like, it's like some claim of like this like profound economic anxiety or what. It's like, what are you talking about? Like, you know, a president with actually a very, very slim majority seems that they're going to be able to get a pretty goddamn large amount of social spending passed underneath their, you know, administration if this new bill gets through, the infrastructure one or whatever, you know. Yeah.
Emotion and are able to be who they actually are. Do you feel in your life that you're stymied and stifled, you can't express yourself, that you're under financial pressures, you're under public, social, cultural pressures not to be who you actually are? Wherever you fall, culturally, racially, however you identify, people are feeling pinioned, pushed down into boxes, unable to be connected to their own inner nature and nature at large. This is a
Primitivism.
major problem. Sporting events, you know, some of you think it's bread and circuses. I love football, but the reason I think I love it is because it's
Well, I mean, it is bread and circuses, but it's the enjoyable part, right?
raw emotion. It's raw, and it's challenging to bring up that energy of raw emotion because people are feeling a lot of stuff because people have been put through a lot, particularly in the last few years. And if people don't like the Joe Biden administration or the Donald Trump administration, they should be able to express that. That is literally what a democracy is at minimum supposed to include.
That's fine. That's okay. But not on an airline flight when you're a private employee of that or whatever. I mean, you should have a legal consequence for it, but your employer should act on that and not have you like say political messages in that context. That's all. That's all. Okay, now let's see this.
Now FBI special agent turned CNN political analyst Asha Rangappa has essentially declared, "Let's go Brandon," is the equivalent of an ISIS war cry. She tweeted this: "As an experiment, I'd love for a Southwest Air pilot to say, 'Long live ISIS' before taking off."
Because I was wondering what the wording was where he was saying, "Oh, essentially compared." Their point there is, I mean, I guess it's a little more like extreme and like whatever, but their point there just seems to be, yeah, I'd like to see them express like a highly like a political message like that, and then anyone give any questions as to whether or not we would censor said political message, right? I don't think that's comparing it to ISIS. Like, what? In fact, isn't it differentiating it by saying that it's a different thing? Like, if they were comparing it, then they would have said, it's not even about the thing itself. It's about, like, the context of saying political speech in a space like that. Okay.
Well, firstly, like, ISIS, like, have you ever read anything about ISIS's ideology? This is the thing I read once. They said, "We don't negotiate. We don't care. We don't care if you offer to give us the land. We don't care if you withdraw all your troops. We don't care if you give us back all the mineral resources and oil resources. We are doing this no matter what." And I remember thinking, wow. That's terror. That's like, we are disconnected from all discourse and we're going to pursue these goals no matter what. I think I read that in like New Statesman a few years ago around like the progression from Al-Qaeda into ISIS and the rise of those organisations in groups that have, you know, previously been colonised and imperially invaded by, well, let's not get into it, but I think you can work the rest out in your head, right? Now, like, those organisations...
I wouldn't frame ISIS as an anti-colonialist, like, backlash movement. I mean, you can argue that, you know, I like that turn to radical Salafism in like, Iraq and Syria happened in large part due to the vacuum that was enabled in large part by the Iraq War. I'd agree there. I don't think it could have emerged in the same way, but let's not get it twisted that it was a backlash against colonialism. Like, No, this was I mean, it might have utilized that kind of rhetoric a lot of the time, but this was more than anything just kind of like, like extremist religious politics that, yes, was enabled at times and utilized like anti-colonialist rhetoric and stuff like that. But it doesn't actually speak to the character of that movement. But whatever, it's not the main point of this. But whatever.
Whatever you think about their origins and causes and objectives are so different. Like, to categorize ISIS as comparable to sort of a jocund movement around the president of the United States. Don't you? What happened to you guys?
Yeah, I mean, that would be pretty crazy if she did that. I agree. It'd be kind of nuts. I mean, it's a good thing that that's not really what that said at all, but whatever.
In the 60s, man.
Yeah, what happened to you guys? I agree. I mean, at least Russell Brand used to give some left-wing pushback to people. Matt Taibbi used to be an actual journalist back in the day, but whatever.
And people are putting flour in their hair and smoking joints and going to Woodstock and saying, listen, we've got to be free. We've all got to be free to come together. Now they're like, you can't say, let's go, Brandon.
Well, maybe because the hippies, I mean, in the end, were actually rather reactionary. I mean, that generation turned into the generation that elected Reagan like 20 years later, right? So
Had a president on a network?
Wait, that's not what they said. It's just purely talking about the context. Maybe some of the CNN people would also say that, but that's not what they said in the clips that you showed or the things that you showed, so...
The spirit of anarchy and rebellion, where has it gone? All replaced by this kind of insidiousness, this invective, this cruelty, this censorial hatred. Man, I see it as pretty dark.
Where's the censorial hatred? Where?
This tweet continues. The plane would be immediately grounded. The pilot fired. Well, yeah, it would be different to say long live ISIS, because there's a little bit of a connection.
Well, I don't know how they'd immediately ground the plane since the pilot's saying it. I guess maybe the passengers would I'm doing a citizen's arrest, but I mean, once it happened, they would be investigated. They'd probably be fired. Whereas in this case, again, it's just an investigation. I mean, this guy here. Let's even look it up. Southwest Airlines pilot. Let's go, Brandon. Let's see. Investigate. Has he been fired? Let's see. Tools, recent, past 24 hours. I mean, it doesn't really seem like there's anything. It says that they're conducting an internal investigation. So it's just being investigated.
Between ISIS and terror.
So, so he could face, who knows, maybe he'll just get a reprimand or something like that, or a warning, and being like, hey, stop saying political messages in a context where it's inappropriate to you representing our company when you say stuff like that.
There's a little bit of a connection between aeroplanes and terror, isn't there? What that's an attempt to do is conjure the kind of condemnation that comes up when people feel they're under attack, but domestically, to divide a country yet further. What an unhelpful way of approaching something that could just be regarded as a bit of a laugh. I feel like we've got to get to a place where people can communicate openly and not create more and more hatred, not look for opportunity. Let's make this worse. Things are bad enough. Part of the joke of Let's Go Brandon, of course, is you couldn't go 5 minutes during the last administration without hearing someone in pearls or a bow tie screaming, fuck Trump. I don't remember Rangappa pumping out Osama De Niro tweets after De Niro celebrated Tony Awards.
Yeah, no, but I'm sure the Trumpy people did that. All this is just culture war shit.
Appearance. The bigger part of the Let's Go Brandon gag is such outbursts during the Trump years were not only not condemned, they were celebrated, as pundits and reporters for the first time told us directly profane insults of presidents were okay.
I don't know if that was the first time. I mean, you could look at any of the Fox News coverage of, Obama, for instance, which was really crazy and a lot more kind of unprecedented, at least in recent decades at that point, in mainstream discourse in the same way. It's just kind of like a general trend of polarization, or what could be argued as asymmetrical polarization, where Republicans go further than Dems, but,
Robert De Niro's comments at the Tony Awards go viral was CNN's bemused take. As I say, and as you can see from looking at previous content on this platform.
And that's the other thing too, is that they're taking the comments of individual analysts or a thing from and they're saying that that's even like like would a headline from CNN even read, "Disgusting terrorist pilot"? Like, no, it would say Southwest Airlines investigating pilot over use of "Let's Go Brandon" slogan. Maybe that would be an analyst take, or some random person's take, but that doesn't mean that necessarily like represents an editorial. I don't know. This is a bizarre thing to say.
I'm not a fan of either of those political figures when it comes to it, while I recognise the impact that some or one of those political figures has had precisely because of the manner in which the establishment operates, and now we can see plainly censors. What I'm advocating...
Plainly said, what censorship happened? What censorship? What? Where was the censorship? And I mean, I love that too. He's like, oh man, yeah, no, I'm not on one side at all, right? And then like now the vast majority of his stuff is just kind of like, yeah, like anti-vax shit, like they're coming for your kids. That's why people are, Biden, like stuff, anti-Biden specifically, and maybe he had said anti-Trump stuff before, but like, I mean, his coverage is, and it's not like there's nothing to criticize the Republicans for, and his stuff even then too, like, and was Trump right about the COVID pill all along? Like, I don't know. It's kind of like, was there actually that much opposition to Trump? I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough about Brand. Maybe I'm being a little unfair to him on that aspect. But like, this kind of doesn't look like. Kind of looks like you're favoring one side a lot more than the other. And hey, it's doing really well for him. Like, oh my God, look at these views. Holy, Social Blade. Russell Brand. I'm really okay because he's doing great. Oh my God. Yeah, he's huge. Look at this. Oh my. Wow. I mean, good for him. Paying the bills. Wow. Incredible growth. And look at that. This is all Biden stuff. Like all post-Biden. That's really wild. He's doing amazing. So yeah, and I mean, and that's part of why I wanted to cover this, because yeah, he's becoming huge overnight, and I mean, this is like piss poor content. 1 million people seem to have loved this. 91,000 likes. Notice the difference of class between F Trump and Let's Go Brandon. The former's rude, humorless, shallow. It takes no thinking, no imagination, no standards to stand by. It's just an emotional outburst. And I would even dare to call it a zero IQ take. Perfect for people that have no depth, that are completely one-dimensional. And yet it was widely used by those they considered themselves to be the smarter ones. The latter is poking fun indirectly, and the only reason it became a thing is because of the perpetually offended, humorless people wanted it to be an insult. They want to feel outraged, and thus people keep giving them exactly what they want. The more they whine about it, the louder people shout the forbidden phrase, causing even more offense and outrage. And it is all done without even insulting anyone, without cursing, without denigrating a single person. Done by people that are supposed to be dumb. Done by a bunch of boomers. So who is really the dumb one here? Who is really the shallow, mindless drone? Who is acting like a bunch of cultureless pigs? Definitely not the Brandons. I don't even know what to say. Oh my God. Like, it's not even like, I don't even find it, it's just so cringy, dude. Oh my God. Imagine being this full of yourself. Imagine writing this. Dear Lord. Oh, man. Oh, my God. Let's Go Brandon is just a form of peaceful protest. It hurts no one. And you're not supposed to peacefully protest at your goddamn job unless you're willing to, face the consequences of that. As a private employer or doing that or whatever. Now, I mean, if you protested outside of your job and your job hit you for that, well, that would be wrong. But if I decide to, if I'm like, I don't know, if I work at like McDonald's And then like I don't know, during like all the BLM stuff, I was like, I'm gonna take a knee. I'm gonna take a knee. I'm gonna go into my job, and then I'm just gonna stand at the counter and take a knee for 2 hours. And I'm just gonna sit there and protest to show the state, to show to people, yeah, man. Well, I'd be a fucking idiot, and I'd get fired, and I'd probably have it coming. like I don't care. Like, what? It's just dumb. Don't do this stuff. It's cringeworthy. It's dumb. Yeah. Anyway, let's finish
not
up the
one
video
party
since
or
we've
the
already
other,
gone so
but for an
far.
entirely new way of approaching life that connects to who we really are, that we can
Okay.
become who we really are, that we can remember that we can create different systems and societies to create hope, not more antipathy and cruelty and censorship and condemnation, to look at how we might get along better. And I think it's important to acknowledge that people are dissatisfied and have the right to communicate and have the right to have a little bit of a laugh and have the right to criticise people in power. And if you have real values, you won't care whether or not someone agrees with you. You'll say, no, I agree with your right to say it. I don't agree with that, but I recognise your right to say it.
Yeah, it's your right to say it, and it's also the right of your employer, when you say it in the context of your job, to repudiate you for that. That's how the First Amendment works. Like, there's no censorship.
That's where I
here.
stand on this issue.
He wasn't. I mean, he's not even been fired. Also, to be clear, he's been invested.
But that's just what I think. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. If you like this video, have a look at this cheeky little thing. If you need to meditate, access some different perspectives, sign up to my Awakening Side channel as well as subscribing to this one. And please sign up to my mailing list so I can tell you the stuff I'm reading, what I'm thinking, and where I'm going with all of this. Stay free.
Damn, man. Well, hey, a good brand. I do respect the grind. I do respect the hustle. I'll say that, okay? Even if Brand's positions are kind of a bit of a meme, bit of a joke. But, hey, man. He seems to be doing well, and people seem to like it. Although it is derivative and dumb and whatever. But, good for him. Jeez! Oh, my God! Oh, my Lord! Dear Lord! Wow! Holy... 380,000 subs in the last 30 days, 42 million views. Good for him, But that's my thoughts on that video. I didn't think it was so great. But, people seem to have liked it. Anyway, that was it. I was 36 minutes going over that video. Oh, Lord. But, whatever. Hey, people got to talk about some of this stuff. It's ridiculous. So, if you enjoyed that, hit like, all that, whatever, subscribe. And, yeah, I was Aurelius, and have a good one. Bye-bye.